Ferrari, the Porsche, front engine over here of the Aston Martin, Henry Platt in the McLaren, which actually dominated last night in the Sprint Series. And watching him now, he is still on an outlap. Everyone's still on an outlap. Currently no lap set from any driver yet, but we're going to slowly start to see it pull through as drivers are going slowly and slowly around. We've got a majority Ferrari 296 field over here. Currently, we've got the likes of Harry Duplessis, Gerrit Bukes, we've got Henk Pieterse, Ian Upton, Joan Viviers, Ulrich de Jager, and a couple of other drivers actually taking the Ferrari out for a spin. So good thing to see. We've got a bit of a trend developing, and we've seen it over some of the other races as well, with the Ferrari being used as the most common car on grid. But that is due to the Ferrari being one of the newest cars on the ACC vehicle selector, where you can actually choose any vehicle that is open on the game, and it also follows the GT3 calendar of cars in real life as well. So the Ferrari, as mentioned, being the latest, the 2023 model car, very nice traction control system, a mid-engine runner, so it's got good rotation, good top speed, and overall just a great car to drive. Nice and easy for some people, and you know, some other people might start suffering with it. But let's start looking at these lap times. Corné Strauss, currently our pole sitter in the Porsche 992 with a 135.9. So currently the only driver to actually break the 135s, Gerrit Bukes behind 136.1. Neil Creeling behind. Oh, Neil Creeling actually getting pushed down by Ian Upton with a 136.2. Ian Upton getting pushed down by Ronald Childs with a 136.1. Then Ian Upton 136.2. Neil Creeling with a 136.3. Reginald Mittinelli with a 136.4. Rowan van der Walt 136.5. Henry Platt 136.6. Joan Viviers also 136.6. Faiz Tau 136.7. Chris Collison 136.7 as well. Pushed down a little bit. Bradley Searle 136.9. Ulrich de Jager with the 137 flat. So far a pretty good developing grid. Harry Duplessis 137.1. Peter Meyer 137.1. Arno Kraus 137.2. Martin Rodenbach 137.2. So drivers starting to slowly get a little bit more comfortable with their cars, but still only one being able to come out with a 135, being Corné Strauss. So a nice thing, like we are talking about, and as you can see on the screen, is that Red Star Raceway is indeed the title sponsor of the RACEFACE.PRO GT3 Pro-Am Championship for Season 19. And they've actually agreed to give some amazing perk, well, actually one specific perk, to the overall winning driver, that one driver who stands at the top of the podium at the end of the 8 rounds of the Season 19 Championship. And that is a track experience at Red Star Raceway for the winning driver of Pro-Am. So an incredible achievement to actually try and chase down from some of these drivers, some of these guys maybe wanting to potentially get into real life racing, feel what a car feels like compared to a regular force feedback wheel in a game simulation. This could definitely be a start for them, with that track experience coming in hand at Red Star Raceway. Red Star also a very notorious track, beautiful track to actually go and visit. I've watched a couple of races there myself, but never actually raced there. So I mean, what a prize to think about, to be able to have a full track experience all to yourself, and all you need to do is win the championship. So a little bit easier said than done, comes out the mouth nicely, but on the track it might come out a little bit harder. But so far we're seeing a good development of drivers, and I just want to quickly double confirm. I believe I actually might have the current standings for Pro-Am. So currently Martin Rodenbach sitting comfortably in first place with 72 points, followed by Johan Bluchnoot with 71 points, Henry Platt behind him with 68 points in the championship, Richard van der Heerde with 56 points, and Gerrit Duplessis lining up the top 5 with 50 points. So absolutely amazing stuff to see. But as we mentioned, this is only round 3 of the championship. Drivers are going to start putting in a little bit more effort. Drivers are going to start pushing a little bit harder, and it's always a great thing to see. We've still got loads of time to try and make things up. But while I've been babbling on here, we've had a couple more lap times set. Corné Strauss with a 135.4 now. Fastest time still of the session. Gerrit Bukes behind him with a 135.5. Johan Bluchnoot now also into the 135s. Actually sets the fastest time of the session in that last lap, a 135.4, 460. So just beating Corné Strauss by 0.055 seconds, which is an absolute amazing spectacle to see. That's 500ths of a second. So great stuff to see. We have got, let's see, yeah, I think it's top 7. The entire top 7, Peter Meyer rounding up the final group of people in the 135s. Actually, Chris Collison joins in with a 135.9, and then Richard van Heerder following up with a 136.062. So close to that 135 break, but just unfortunately not getting it. But so far, some incredible stuff from some of these drivers. People are putting in a crazy amount of effort, and that's always what we like to see. So let's continue on board now. We've got Richard van Heerder currently on another lap, I believe. Let's move on the list. So Johan Bluchnoot currently sitting nicely in pole. Not a very big gap, as we mentioned. That's 500ths of a second to Corné Strauss, who's currently sitting in the pit lane. So definitely has a little bit of a time to chase to Johan Bluchnoot, and he's got about 6.5 minutes left of this qualifying session. So drivers are going to slowly start to need to put those final couple of times in. So we've got, let's see, the likes of Dani Steenkamp in pit, Jean Mostert in pit as well. The only 2 drivers, and Chris Collison in pit, Corné Strauss coming out. And as we mentioned, he wants redemption. He was sitting nicely in 4th, and Johan Bluchnoot actually took that away from him. So he's going to go back out on track, new set of tires, refueling. But it's actually an incredible thing to see. These drivers run an incredibly low amount of fuel during qualifying to keep that GT3 car nice and light. The less weight, the less weight that has to actually be carried around the circuit, and that allows for higher speeds, top speed as well as cornering speed. So that is exactly why they run a lower fuel amount, and it just allows for them to push a little bit harder. Tires burn a little bit less, obviously, as there's less weight in the car. But overall, it's for that better lap time. We won't be seeing that in the main race, as obviously we've got a 1 hour and 20 minute long feature race coming up with 2 mandatory pit stops. And those mandatory pit stops are really going to throw a spanner in the works of some of these drivers. They're going to have to try and think of strategies to try and beat some of their potential rivals coming to round 3 of the championship. I mean, round 3, yeah, it sounds early, but remember, there's only 8 rounds in the RACEFACE.PRO Pro-Am Championship for Season 19. So drivers are going to have to try and slowly start to make a bit of provision here, and there's not going to be as much time as they think there is, but slowly but surely they're going to do it, and they're going to fight their rivals. So incredible stuff to see. We've got just under 5 minutes left of this qualifying session. Johan Bluchnoot still sitting nicely in that first position, and he's got quite a nice delivery on over there. Let's follow on to Corné Strauss, still trying to beat that time. I believe he was on a lap now. Not too sure if that was a flying lap or an out lap. Unfortunately, wasn't checking that one out. But still chasing exact same time behind, 500ths of a second. Gerrit Bukes behind with the 135.5, so a little bit further behind. And then we got the likes of Ian Upton still sitting in 4th. Peter Meyer up into 5th place with a 135.7, so great stuff from him. He's pushed himself up from 7th position. Henry Platt in 6th position with that McLaren. Gerard Pretorius in 7th position now. Chris Collison setting a nice lap up into 9th position with a 135.8. Richard van Heerder with the 135.9, closing off the top 10 actually. Ron van der Walt in 11th with a 135.9 as well. Ulrich de Jager in 12th with the 135.9. Hansi Meiberg nicely up into the top 13 right now. 135.9 as well from him. And Neil Krenning, the final, well, actually the first driver to start off the 136s with the 136.017. So that is so close to breaking into the 135s. And Hansi Meiberg in front only with a 135.92, meaning that it is definitely chaseable. He's got 3.5 minutes left to try and chase that, so that could be a potential position gained. Or it could go the other way around and Hansi Meiberg putting in a better time. We shall see. Down more, Reginald Mitteleni in 17th. On the 136 flat. Dani Steenkamp in 18th, followed by Jean Mostert, Gary van der Haar, Gary Duplessis, Faiz Tar, Martin Radenbach, Mustafa Narodian, Arno Kraus, Jody Sierman, Henk Pieterse, Bradley Sial, Jason Landsberg, Ruan Liebenberg, Jaco Gröbler, and Jaco Norda. I'm not too sure if he joined late, but apparently the only driver on grid to unfortunately have no time to his name. So, unfortunately, he's either... Oh, and he's actually disappeared. He might be having some form of network issue, as I actually can't spectate him anymore. So, potentially having a couple of network issues here and there to try and join the server. One more thing I shall point out, unfortunately, with this being the first streamed race for the Prime Division, we are still busy working our way through some things and all of the technicalities of having a second streamer. So unfortunately, I cannot see any of those amazing fans in the virtual grandstand for tonight. You'll have to save your messages for next week's race. But you guys are there in the spirit, and I'm more than happy to go back and check some of those virtual grandstand comments at the end of this race. But don't disappear. Continue watching. We've got a great race ahead of us. This is just the qualifying, and 2 minutes left now actually of this qualifying session. Then we head over to the feature race for the title sponsored race, Red Star sponsoring the RACEFACE.PRO GT3 Pro-Am Championship for season 19. So great stuff to watch. Gerard Bukes still in third position. John Blichnoot still leading nicely with an even faster lap time now. He is not messing around. 1:35.1 from Johan Blichnoot in the Ford Mustang. Now we actually saw a little bit of domination between the Ford Mustang and the McLaren 720S Evo last night. Both of those cars evening out nicely in the top 5 in the sprint series last night. So potentially something we're seeing again. Johan Blichnoot being the only top 10 Ford Mustang in qualifying right now. Dani Steenkamp actually also in the Ford Mustang down in 19th position. And then the likes of Arno Kraus also in 27th, currently sitting in pit lane with the other Ford Mustang. So 3 Ford Mustangs on grid, 1 in first, 1 in the midfield, and 1 near the back of the pack. So a nice little 3-way split. We've now got 57 seconds left of qualifying here. And I don't know if Corne Strauss is going to be able to beat it. He's got a 1:35.2 here. Just a tenth off of Johan Blichnoot's time of 1:35.1. I don't know if he's going to be able to get this. Oh, no, definitely not. Goes off the grass, actually hits the wall. Unfortunate there from Corne Strauss. Losing control coming out of the sharp right-hander here at Zandvoort, and he's back into the pit lane. I don't think he's got time for another one, and that's going to be his qualifying session over, and that is going to be his position if no one else can potentially take it away. On board now with Harry Bukes from the Sim Alpha SRS. One quick apology to some liveries might be missing here. We actually didn't. That's actually part of some of the technicalities that we missed out on for the Prime stream. That'll be also next week is the awesome Sim Racing livery sync. So major apologies if you do not see your livery on tonight. You will definitely see it on next week. So yeah, that's one minor inconvenience. But qualifying is now officially over. We've got a wait time of 2 minutes and 20 seconds. So Gerard Bukes coming around the final corner now. Will he be able to beat Corne Strauss into the top row lockout? And unfortunately, I don't actually know if it is. I don't think he's clocked it yet. It hasn't showed. No, it has showed. Okay, Gerard Bukes with a 1:35.3. Unfortunately, a tenth and a half to Corne Strauss. So unfortunately, that's going to be his position. So the top 5 is all parked up. That is it for the top 5. Johan Blichnoot, Corne Strauss, Gerard Bukes, Ian Upton, and Juan Viviers closing up the top 5. So absolutely fierce competition. We've got a couple of drivers still setting times. Henry Platt still out on track, trying to beat his time and potentially take a position out from Clint Langeveld in front of him in 9th position. What is that gap? Let's see. 1:35.7 for Clint Langeveld. 1:35.79 for Henry Platt. So very, very chaseable. Let's see. He's coming to the final chicane here at Zandvoort. Don't know if he's going to be able to do it. Richard van Heerden now pulled into the pit lane. Ron van der Walt still out as well. Well, it says he's out. That's clearly not out. He's somewhere. So Ron, who's this? Henry Platt, and then also Jaco Kreubler still out on track. Those are currently the only 2 drivers still trying to finish laps. But Henry Platt coming across the line now. Will it be an improvement from 11th place across the line? And it's up into 7th place from Henry Platt. So absolutely phenomenal stuff from him. Great run so far. So far, let's talk about our qualifying grid. We've got Johan Blichnoot, followed by Corne Strauss, Gerard Bukes, Ian Upton, John Viviers, Ronald Childs, Henry Platt, Chris Collison, Peter Meyer, Gerard Pretorius, Clint Langeveld, Richard van Heerden, Hanti Meiberg, Ron van der Walt, Reginald Minteleni, Ulrich de Jager, Gary van der Haal, Neil Greening, Dani Steenkamp, Jody Sedeman, Gerrit Duplessis, Jean Mostert, and Faiz Tar. So we're going to go into a quick breaker to get us onto the main grid for tonight's race, and we'll see you guys as soon as that is over. Alrighty then, we are back on the grid for the race face. Raceface Red Star Raceway GT3 Pro Am Championship Season 19. Back over here at round 3 for Zandvoort. We saw it last night in the sprint, and we're going to see it again today. Currently actually waiting a little bit for the session to start. We've got about a minute before the session starts. And relatively hot track. We saw it last night as well. 28 degrees Celsius. That is a relatively hot track considering that we are on Zandvoort. This is a track that eats tires for breakfast, lunch, and dinner combined. We saw it last night. Tires starting to degrade near the 35-minute mark. This is a 1 hour and 20-minute race, so a little bit longer, a little bit more challenging, but thankfully there is those 2 mandatory pit stops that could potentially assist some of these drivers. Alright, so let's talk about the championship standings compared to where people are sitting on the grid for tonight. So we mentioned Martin Rautenbach, currently sitting first place with 72 points. He is currently, do we see a Martin Rautenbach? I actually don't see a Rautenbach on our list. So Martin Rautenbach not at, oh no, he is, sorry, apologies. 24th position, Martin Rautenbach. So not a great race from him from the KSR Force team. Currently 24th with qualifying, so that might affect his championship standings. John Blicknote in second for the championship, currently sitting in first for this race. So great chances for him to actually win another race. I believe he won the previous race at Monza for the Pro-Am division, so great stuff from him. Then we've got Henry Platt currently sitting in 7th place, so still fightable for him. Let's see, continue down. Richard van Heerden currently down in 12th place, who's sitting 4th in the championship, followed by Gerry Duplessis, who is also very far down in 21st. So not great qualifying coming from some of these drivers. It's not great to see, but it is a little bit unfortunate. But thankfully, we've got a formation lap to allow some of these drivers, well, not some, sorry, to allow every single driver to get their tires warmed up, get those nerves in check, and get racing. We've got a tight circuit here. We've got a nice little run down to turn 1, which is going to create a little bit of a concertina effect, like we mentioned in last night's sprint series. So drivers are going to start to squeeze very close coming to turn 1 and then start to expand as turn 1 ends. But last night we actually saw no incidents, believe it or not, which was a great thing to witness. So we're hoping to see that again for tonight's race. No incidents at all. So Johan Blicknote sitting nicely in first place. We've got the likes of Corne Strauss behind and Gerrit Bukes, followed by Ian Upton and Joan Viviers for our top 5. So we're going to see lots of break. I believe Steven said the name of it, but I'm not the smartest person that have actually forgotten the name of it. It's something to do with brake drafting or brake something. But all I know what the function of it is. The function of it is to hold the brakes while accelerating to get heat to the rim of the tires, and that heat from the rim of the tires goes upwards into the inner layer of the tire. So that allows a good amount of heat to get into those tires, getting them nice and warm and prepared for this race. You do not want to start this race on cold tires because you will sacrifice a lot of time. You will ruin your race, especially in the start if you have cold tires. So let's start moving a little bit more down grid. Gerry Duplessis over here in 21st, John Mostert behind in 5-star. Moving backwards up towards the grid, Henry Platt currently sitting in 4th place in our championship, currently sitting 7th on grid, but we are coming around to nearing the final bits of the track now. We are on one of the back straights over here, slowly starting to get to the end of the formation lap, and then we will begin our main race. Here we go, so into the final chicane now before the final turnoff and then onto the main straight. So who do we think is going to take the lead into turn 1? So obviously, Johan Blicknote, I believe from what we saw at the beginning of the grid, sitting on the inside line and sitting in first place. So if he gets a good pull-off on the start of the race, he'll have a pretty good chance of holding his position going into turn 1 and potentially trying to run away with the race. But he does have an aggressive Corne Strauss behind him in that Porsche with amazing corner exit acceleration speeds, which can be a bit of a risk to him if he does not challenge it right. So it's going to be a bit of a tight one to see. We're going to be witnessing some great racing coming down to turn 1. Also the likes of Gerrit Bukes and Ian Upton behind, also looking very aggressive and ready to go. So we are coming down to the line now. Jeff is going to be sitting in the pit lane with that green flag ready. Drivers are going to be holding up to 70 kilometers an hour until the front 2 drivers hit the start-finish line, and that is now green light has been deployed. John Blicknote actually gets a little bit of a bad launch. Corne Strauss up on his outside line, but Johan Blicknote keeping the inside line nicely. Will he be able to tuck a little bit of contact there? But Johan Johan Blicknote keeping the inside line, forcing the Porsche out wide. Let's go down a little bit on the grid. We've got the fights of Jared Bukes and Ian Upton, keeping in front of Ian Upton very nicely. Oh, and further down the grid, that's a Ferrari actually off of the track. That is the likes of Johan Viviers, unfortunately losing out. So, back up the grid here, we got a nice little train developing. Corne Strauss, let's see him. As you can see, very, very close behind Johan Blicknote. So, Johan not being able to pull off like he wanted to, but he does still have a whole hour and 20 minutes. That's 80 minutes to do whatever he can. Back down the grid over here, Arno Kraus following nicely behind, Arno Kraus, sorry, the Ford Mustang with a very angry BMW behind him, actually, the likes of Martin Raudenbach, who is currently the leader of our Pro-Am division. Going up for a dive bomb here, cuts the curb very tight. Will he be able to control the car coming into the next corner? Has significantly less exit speed here, but holding the inside line over the Ford Mustang. I don't know if he's going to be able to hold this one. Let's see it. Coming around by the ambulance. Coming around the outside of the Ford Mustang, holding it neatly. Oh, but losing it to the debris on the outside line. And that is unfortunately the realistic part of racing, is that there is a lot of debris on the outside of the track, and it can cause those tires to slip a lot. John Blicknote still sitting nicely in first place. We're going to have a go and try and look at some of the accidents from the past. And unfortunately, once again, unable to go back and try and view these accidents. So, a little bit of a bummer to see not being able to view some of these accidents. But it's okay, we'll work with what we've got. So, like we mentioned, Johan Blicknote sitting nicely in first place, still followed by Corne Strauss. Jared Bukes behind, and Ronald Childs actually getting the jump on the likes of Ian Upton with that Aston Martin. So Old Power, definitely still a contestable car, especially with the BOP, the balance of performance run on the server that allows for cars to have a fair and equal chance of racing. Chris Collison also up into 6th place now for the Simex Raceface team, and he's doing phenomenally well. He's got a couple of scrapes on the side of that Ferrari, as we've seen. So, been in a little bit of a tussle and a tassel here and there. Henry Platt still holding his place down in 7th position. Peter Meyer putting a lot of pressure on Henry Platt behind. We're going to try and capitalize earlier on in the race to try and get as many positions as he can. He unfortunately had a bit of a rough race last night in the sprint series, losing control of that Porsche a little bit. I think finishing down in 20th position. So looking for a bit of redemption here in the Pro-Am main race sponsored by Red Star Raceway. Clint Langerfeld following behind in the sim racing cartel BMW. Very nice color scheme that complements the car that he's driving, that white, red and blue. Richard Van Heerder following behind in the RVH Racing Ferrari with that menacing Hulk looking color from the Marvels team. As you can see, that nice green and purple following behind and filling the rear mirrors of the likes of Clint Langerfeld. Hansi Mayberg following behind him now in the Team Tryhard BMW. Ron van der Volt following also in the BMW. And sad to say, I'm not going to mention this livery. I'm not going to mention the team name, because if you were watching last night's sprint series, I unfortunately cursed this team by mentioning their name, and they had multiple incidents over the race. So I'm going to keep that a quiet one, skip to the next driver. Gerard Pretorius in the Griffin Sim Racing team, also a beautiful livery with that purple, grey and black, followed by his teammate Ulrich de Jager, also in the Griffin Sim Racing car. So this is also where racing starts to get a little bit intense, is when team strategies start to come into place. When one driver is faster than the other, and vice versa, you know, trying to flip cards, trying to pull each other together in tows, trying to pull each other in slipstream to try and benefit for both. And those are a couple of strategies that we see here at Raceface. Neil Treading down in 16th place, Reginald Mitteleni quite far in front. So that is going to be the split line. If you look at your track map in the top right over there, you will start to see the split line. Reginald Mitteleni, the last of the top 15 split. Then Neil Krenning, the leader of the 16th to the bottom split. A little bit of a gap there. That's a 2-second gap between him and Reginald. Jody Sienemann following in the XRT Ella McLaren 720S Evo. Following nicely behind that Aston Martin. Mustafa Narodian in the Triazi Competizione. Also a very nice color scheme. I must compliment some of these liveries. The color schemes are complementing the cars. John Mostert and the Tire Troopers. So he's on the mission to try and make those tires last, as he gets dive bombed actually by the likes of Carrie Duplessis, but he's not actually able to keep that position and allow it to stick. So still sitting nicely behind the BMW of John Mostert. He's going to be trying to hold on to him coming onto the back straight, potentially going to get a better run than him. He's going to be holding onto that slipstream, and let's see if he will be able to make a move. Five star behind in the Fies team car, so self-representative driver. has no one or no one to report to, but sometimes that can actually make the better driver when he doesn't have to have that pressure of another team with the Libertas livery. Looking very nice as well. Nice purple and blue color scheme that we're seeing actually from Feistel. Followed by Arno Kraus in the Team Tryhard Racing Ford Mustang. Unfortunately not able to get that livery ready in time for tonight. Martin Rottenbach following behind in the KSR Force car. As we mentioned, he is the leader of our Pro-Am series so far, sponsored by Red Star Raceway. So we're going to have to try and see him climb a little bit before the end of the race. Otherwise, he's going to lose out on major points to the likes of Johan Bluknoot, who's currently leading this race very comfortably. He's got a nice, just under a second gap to Corne Strauss behind. That doesn't mean that the threat has been alleviated. Corne Strauss still behind in that Porsche, utilizing the easier rotation of the Porsche and the exit speeds. Gerrit Bukes now developing a 2-second gap actually from the race leaders. So starting to break away now for Johan Bluknoot and Corne Strauss. So they might be in a race of their own. Ronald Childs fighting very hard to try and keep that Ferrari of Ian Upton, who wants his position back. Actually started in 4th, now in 5th place, Ian Upton. So trying to get it back for Project Vapor. Also a nice little livery complementing the colors of that Ferrari. Chris Collison in 6th place, following on Ian Upton, and then the likes of Peter Meyer behind him. So let's keep on going to try and round up our top 10. Henry Platt actually losing a position down to 8th position. Started in 1st for Team Tryhard Racing. Still doing a phenomenally well job. And a nice thing you can see about that McLaren is that there does not seem to be any form of scratch mark anywhere to be found on that McLaren. So he's kept it nice and clean throughout the first part of the race. Clint Langenfeld in the Sim Racing Cartel following nicely behind. And then Richard van Heerden closing off our top 10 for the RACEFACE. Red Star sponsored RACEFACE.PRO Pro-Am Championship for Season 19. Let's move on down to 11th. Hansi Mayberg in the Team Tryhard Racing. Also very clean car. Kept it nice and clean. No scratches can be found as well, which is a good thing. Going down the list, Ron van der Walt in the no-name car. Not going to mention it. Gerard Pretorius following behind in the Griffin Sim Racing car. Then Ulrich de Jager. Awesome. Jumping back up to the top here, we can see that the fight is definitely on for the 1st and 2nd position. But as we mentioned, Gerrit Bukes is giving them a lot of breathing room now. He's got a nice bit of gap behind him and in front of him. He's got a 2.6 second gap in front and a 1.6 second gap behind to Ronald Childs behind in the Aston Martin, who's still getting constant pressure from Ian Upton. Okay, let's go down the list. We've got a couple of incidents that have happened over time. I believe it might just be minor crashes here and there. Jean Mostert still riding nicely in 18th place, followed by Feistel. Let's go down the line. Jody Sierman definitely having a bit of an accident. I think last time we reviewed him, he was up in the 20th. And now down into 31st position for the XRT Ella car. Loads of scratch marks all over that McLaren, so he's definitely seen a bit of bats and bruises. And he's very far behind the rest of the grid. 8-second gap actually to the rest of the grid. Yaku Noda not racing actually out of this race, I presume, in the pit stop. So Jody Sederman closing off the drivers who are actually still in this race. 31st position, followed by Danny Steenkamp, who also, major actual damage on the front of that Ford Mustang. I think he might have binned a wall there, unfortunately for Danny Steenkamp. So major damage on the front of that Ford Mustang. The rear still looking okay. A couple of scratches on the back. That's obviously from a little bit of bump drafting that has happened during the race. But he's definitely slapped the wall somewhere that we were unfortunately unable to see. So he's going to have to take that car into the pits. But as we mentioned, pits, Jody Sierman into the pits now to probably get that car fixed. If you can't see him, he's currently hiding behind the car of Yakunoria. Probably a little bit embarrassed having to pit this early, but it's okay. I actually think pit window is open, or there's no pit window restriction for Pro-Am, it seems, which is all good. So Jody Sierman able to get his first pit stop done, which is a nice thing. Coming out of the pits now, Gerrit Bukes still in 3rd place. Now, still 2-second gap to the likes of Corne Strauss in front of him. Ronald Childs behind him, still also a 2-second gap now. So he's starting to build a nice little gap for him there, Gerrit Bukes. And Ronald Childs still feeling the pressure from Ian Upton behind. Let's move further down the list. Chris Collison also still doing well, but continuous pressure applied to him by the likes of Peter Meyer. So Peter Meyer putting lots of pressure. Oh, and there is a pit window. So that is so unfortunate for the likes of Jody Sederman, who has missed the pit window, meaning he still has 2 mandatory pit stops to complete. which is so unfortunate to see. And he's going to have to redo it all. He's going to have to re-put petrol in and potentially tires. So he just quickly did a stop for the car to be repaired. We can go a little bit closer on board over here. That McLaren is shining now, but unfortunately an invalid pit stop from his side. Oh man, that is so upsetting to see. He's going to have to redo it all. And trying to see, sorry guys, trying to find on the dashcam software if I can pop any form of information up next to each driver, but struggling to find something here. Yeah, okay, cool. I cannot find that. That's unfortunate. Alright, let's continue. Johan Bluknoot still sitting nicely in front with the likes of Corne Strauss behind him. Oh, Johan Bluknoot running a little bit wide there with that Mustang. So that's going to allow Corne Strauss in the Porsche Motorsport Porsche 992 to have a bit of a better run coming into the final corner here. But that Mustang with the incredible top speed and a very good amount of torque and acceleration will be able to pull away nicely from the likes of Corne Strauss. And I believe that in front is the McLaren of Jody Sederman. Now almost about to get lapped by the front runner of Johan Bluknoot and Corne Strauss. So real unfortunate from him, down, very low down after that pit stop. And so unfortunate that he missed the pit window. Alright, so continuing down 5-star in 19th. Still fighting with the likes of Kyle Duplessis hugging behind. John Mostard has actually created himself a bit of a gap. We see a Mustang actually pulling into the pit lane there. That's the like of, I believe that's Arno Kraus pulling into the pit lane to complete a pit stop now. Yes, so he's doing a nice and early one. 2 minutes pit stop window has been open, and he's pulling in to make that undercut actually. And it might work, it might not work. Me and Steven have discussed it multiple times whether the undercut is a possible strategy. It definitely is, but it has to be done right. Alright, moving on then. We've got Ruan Liebenberg in the... I'm just going to say it. I think we're okay. I think the curse should have lifted the Pandacity Esports car. And once again, amazing liveries from these guys. Very nice two-tone color. Currently chasing down the likes of Jakub Kribler in the Saki Ferrari 296. It looks like a bit of a toxic waste style livery. Which is also very nice, very intimidating actually if it is behind you. So he is chasing down the likes of Jakub Kribler, Jason Landsberg, a little bit further behind the likes of Ruan Liebenberg, a 1 second gap. There you can see the likes of Liebenberg in front of him. Donnie Steenkamp, quite a good margin behind, 2 seconds behind the likes of Landsberg. So he's going to be trying to chase that, but Martin Raudenbach is down in the 29th position. So this is actually our season leader currently. We're losing the rear a little bit there of that BMW. Currently the leader of the champion, the potential champion of the RACEFACE Red Star Pro-Am GT3 Championship Season 19 leaderboard. So he's currently sitting in 29th, which is not great for him. Unfortunately, I'm unable to see if he has completed a pit stop. We'll make sure that is up and running for next week's stream. Like we mentioned, first stream for Pro-Am here, so we are starting to get things slowly but surely knitted up to make the final big picture. The likes of Neil Greening still running nicely in 13th for Logistical Nightmare Racing. Also very nice and clean liveries from Logistical Nightmare Racing, or as they better go by, the LNR team. Nice little abbreviation, rolls off the tongue quite nicely. He's got the likes of Mustafa Noradian running behind him, who's got a little bit of scrapes and bumps on that Triasi Competizione Ferrari. Obviously had a bit of incidents here and there. You can see the scrapes are unfortunately quite evident. So far, actually, from what we can see from the highlights board, not any incidents in the past couple of minutes, which is a great thing from some of these drivers. But 15 minutes in now, 5 minutes that the pit window has been open. Drivers are going to slowly start to develop those strategies of wanting to pit early or wanting to hold it out later on. Johan Bluknoot sitting with the fastest lap time currently of a 1:35.8. Corne Strauss with a 1:36 flat. So 2:10 slower in the fastest lap time. We've actually seen it there. A 2.1 second gap has actually already been developed between the likes of Johan Bluknoot and Corne Strauss. So Johan starting to pull away with a bit of a gap now. He is going to slowly start to approach the back markers. We've got Jody Sederman just in front of him actually. So he's going to already face his first back marker within the next lap or two actually, which could potentially give Corne Strauss the upper hand if he does manage to get stuck. Carrot Bukes also behind Corne Strauss now managed to pull nicely back up to the likes of Corne Strauss. So Corne actually running a little bit slower than he should be if he's wanting to catch Johan and keep a good gap behind from Carrot Bukes. who is now, well, he was sitting at, I think, 1.7 seconds from Corne Strauss, now sitting 0.5 seconds. So under a second, well under a second, actually. Definitely a fightable position for him now. Ronald Childs giving a bit of space there to Craig Bukes now, 1.5 seconds gap. And then a very big gap from Chris Collison, 6 seconds almost. Sorry, 2.7 seconds from the likes of Ronald Childs. And he is feeling the pressure from the likes of Peter Meyer behind him. So Peter Meyer putting in some pretty consistent laps there, the 136.3 being his fastest lap, faster than the likes of Chris Collison ahead. But he's also got the likes of Henry Platt, currently sitting 4th in the RACEFACE Red Star GT3 Pro-Am Championship leaderboard, currently sitting in 4th. So he's going to be hunting down those positions to try and chase down for that better position. But currently, our best chance, the person with the best chance to win the track experience that has been sponsored by Red Star, in my opinion, is Johan Bloknoot. He won Monza last weekend, and he's going to potentially win this race if he continues to race as well as he is now. And if he manages to win this race, it will boost him up into 1st place for the championship leaderboard. And if he can hold that up until the end of the season, that track experience will indeed be his. And that's always a great thing to have, is to experience the driving that you do on the simulators every single week, Wednesday and Thursday here at RaceFace, and instead getting the chance to do it in real life, you know, putting your foot on a proper metal pedal and getting the experience to potentially do something more. Sim racing is obviously an unlimited cap. There is so much to do on the sim racing softwares. You've got iRacing, you've got Assetto Corsa Competizione, and you've got so many new ones being developed, but it can never, in my opinion, get to the standard and the realism of real life. Obviously, real life being real life, so, you know, it is the most realistic, the most physical, the most demanding, the most nerve-wracking, and so that track experience could go good for Johan Bloknoot. But Corne Strauss also not someone to just dissipate on. Definitely still in the fight for this, as we actually see Johan Bloknoot getting very nicely past the likes of Jody Sierman, that is right in front of him, and now it is up to Corne Strauss to get nicely behind him. But Jody Sierman no longer the last person in this race, followed by Dani Steenkamp down in 29th, also back marker already, and then followed by Mustafa Narodian. So I actually mentioned before, for the likes of Dani Steenkamp and Mustafa Narodian, they both had some visible damage on their cars, so they potentially pulled into the pits, got that fixed real quick, and you know, rather sacrifice a bit of time in the pits, get one of their pit stops done and dusted, and get that car repaired out on track a little bit faster than it usually is, compared to when it was damaged at the beginning of the race, and that just gives them the upper hand. So 11 laps done now by the lap leaders. So from 1st up into 11th place, well, now 12th place, the likes of Neil Krenning and a couple more drivers now following behind. These are all drivers who have completed 11 laps. The like of Fiestar, well, now completing his 11th. Bradley Seal also completing his 11th. These guys down up into Ruan Liebenberg. So Henk Pieterse still only 10 laps done, pulling into the pit lane. So we've got back markers already starting to range from the likes of Jody Sierman down to Mustafa Narodian, which also play a very high factor. Oh, that's Henk Pieterse with a lot of damage on the front of that Porsche. That Ferrari. Yo, that was a bit of a disrespectful thing from me. I apologize. The Hybrid Racing Masters Ferrari with a bit of damage on the front, missing his pit box a bit, having to pull up a little bit closer, unfortunately. I think he might be struggling to get in his pit box. I think he's found it. Cool. As I was mentioning, the back markers play a very crucial role in the leaders race. The back markers can obviously influence things a bit, cause a little bit of havoc, or they can be respectful, they can be proper, they can be professional, and make sure that they get out of the way in time, make sure they don't sacrifice their own race, because another big thing is that it is never over if you're a back marker. So if you know any of the back markers, any of the guys running lower down on the grid, and you have contact with them, let them know that it is not over, and they should not give up. We do not like giving up here at RaceFace. Oh, and that's Ian Upton going onto the grass a bit. But a big thing that me and Steven have come across is that we do not like seeing people give up. I don't really care if you're down in 30th and you're 6 laps down. The point that matters is that you cross that line with all the other drivers. So for the likes of drivers such as Jaco Nordia, if you've got any form of hardware issue or hardware-related mechanical things, so sorry to hear that, and hopefully you can get it fixed. But if it's anything to do with motivation or not wanting to continue the race, I urge you, get back out on the track, get racing, and try and finish the race, because that is what matters. Back to racing Clint Langerveld with lots of pressure from Ian Upton behind with a little bit of damage on front of that Ferrari. Ian Upton actually was running a lot higher up, so not too sure if he's completed one of his pit stops yet, but he did start this race in 4th position, down to 9th now. So possibly a little bit of an incident from him. Still no actual accidents on the highlights board, which is a great thing to see. The Pro-Am guys know what they're doing. Just because this is the Pro-Am stream does not mean that this is not professional and well off racing. I think Steven mentioned it somewhere along the lines the other night that there were some Pro-Am drivers who missed the grading for Pro by 0.008 of a second. I mean, that's absolutely crazy. That just proves to you how competitive the seal is here at RACEFACE.PRO. Pro-Am drivers are seriously not slow. They are incredibly fast, they keep it clean, and that is exactly why they still deserve some form of award, and that's exactly why Red Star Raceway has decided to sponsor a track experience for the person who takes championship position. I believe that is the likes of John Mostert. No, not John Mostert, sorry, I'm seeing someone in the background fighting over there. That looks like a BMW of Reginald Mitteleni, actually getting in front of Rowan van der Walt of the Pandacity, but then going out wide, unfortunately, losing out. And I'm not too sure if he was making the position or defending the position. So Reginald Mitteleni of the Noob Nation Evo, we've seen some amazing development from this driver. He started out with RaceFace almost 2 to 3 years, actually more. He started out in the AM Silver division back when RaceFace had multiple AM divisions. He started out then on a brand new wheel, very, very slow, very, very new to the race, and he's made it all the way up into Pro-Am, and he's fighting for top 10 right now. So that just proves to you how much commitment and passion, can really do some amazing things for you in the sim racing department and the world of online racing, especially here at RaceFace. I mean, just a little bit of effort and continuous practice. There's evidence of it. I mean, Reginald Mitteleni is definitely someone to clap for, someone who has come from lots and lots of practice, has paid off, now making positions on the likes of Rowan van der Walt for the top 10 position. So great stuff from him. Up to the likes of Johan Bluknoot, now developing up to 2.1 second gap. So Gerrit Bukes now taking 2nd place, actually. So I think he actually made an overtake on Corne Strauss, something we did not notice. And Corne Strauss under immense pressure from the likes of Ronald Childs and the BEC Aston Martin. So Corne Strauss might be struggling a little bit here, might actually start seeing the amounts of tire degradation that we face here at Zandvoort. I mean, he's dropped now. He was fighting Johan Bluknoot on the first lap into T1, and he's lost out completely to Johan Bluknoot, currently sitting very comfortably in 1st place, with the likes of Gerrit Bukes now splitting the two. So it is on for Gerrit Bukes as well to potentially try and make some overtakes on Johan Bluknoot, depending on the pit strategies that are used. So incredible racing from these guys, actually. Alright. Awesome stuff to see. Peter Meyer up into 5th now, managing to get that position on Chris Collison. Also, unfortunately, missed that out. Had a couple of more accidents. Car 99 having an unfortunate accident, and 465 having an accident. Unfortunately, unable to review that. Alright, Henry Platt down in 7th, so he's managed to keep his starting position, which is great. Managing to just, keep it consistent, keep it clean. The likes of Clint Langerveld up into 8th position, but hard behind them still is Ian Upton from 4th down into 9th position, still carrying that damage on that Ferrari on the front. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like it's very bad damage, definitely repairable, so you can get back out on touches the sand, actually. So he's going to limit himself onto the back straight now, chasing Chris Langerveld, and that's going to limit his potential, actually. And as we're speaking, the only 2 fighters in no man's land currently. If you check your track map, these 2 are just simply sitting alone on the Zandvoort track, trying to just manage themselves and trying to keep it clean. But let's go down to John Mostert, who's got made a little bit of a train here. The battle for 14th between John Mostert, Gerrie van der Haar, and 5-star. Not 5-star, actually. That is probably a back marker. I believe that's the back marker of Dani Steenkamp. Yes, that is the back marker of Dani Steenkamp. So not a train just yet. It is definitely a train, but not a fully constructed train. As you see Dani Steenkamp taking a very big curb over there with the Mustang. I know it can take a lot of curb. I don't know if it's that much. So back down to 5-star in 16th position. He's got a bit of a gap to the likes of Gerrie van der Haar. That actually doesn't look like too much of a gap in my software here. I just want to see as he comes around the bend. Okay, cool, yeah. So not much of a gap. Just in front over there, you can see the likes of Gary van der Haar, sorry, in the Aston Martin, and then John Marston in front. Bradley Seol holding it nicely in 17 for the Pandacity Esports Ferrari. I think this is the first Ferrari I've seen, and unfortunately not having the livery downloaded, so apologies to those guys. A little bit of damage on the front of that car. He's probably been carrying that for a while now, since it hasn't been changed in pit, unless that damage has come after his first pit stop. Jaco Kribbler in the Toxic Waste looking sucky Ferrari 296 GT3. Still putting on a great show with the likes of Ron Liebenberg behind, who's also kept it nice and clean. As you can see, no damage around that Porsche. He's kept that car nice and controlled, and he plans to do so for the final 50 minutes of this race. So we have already taken away a full half an hour here. Started at 80 minutes, down to 50 minutes here. And so far the racing has been absolutely phenomenal. Richard van Heerden in the Hulk Smash Ferrari 296. I actually would love if we could change the name to that. That would satisfy me very nicely. It would satisfy everyone in the virtual grandstand to have that name Hulk Smash. I think it would look great. According to the paint, the likes of Gerard Pretorius in the Griffin Sim Racing Ferrari following nicely behind him. Hansi Meiberg down in 21st position. I believe he has done a couple of pit stops. Potentially might have even done both pit stops. Like I say, for next week we will have all the overlays sorted out properly to ensure that you guys on the virtual grandstand have got all the information you need. Jason Landsberg down in 21st position. Not 21st position. I believe Jason Landsberg is actually disconnected. I cannot access his data. He might be out of this race, unfortunately, due to a network drop. So Ulrich De Jager holding out in 22nd behind Hansi Meiberg. Doing pretty well so far for the Griffin Sim Racing car. Not too much damage can be seen on that Ferrari. Martin Rottenbach, currently the championship leader for the Pro-Am division. Down in 23rd place for the KSR Force team. Ronald Childs obviously completed a couple of pit stops. He was fighting very high up on the grid earlier. Now down into 24th for the BEC Aston Martin. Nice gold livery, actually, what I've noticed. You know, potentially trying to intimidate those that he appears in the rear view mirrors. Arno Kraus behind in the Team Tryhard Racing Ford Mustang. Johan Viviers following behind him in the Hybrid Racing Masters Ferrari 296. Also a little bit of damage on the front of that car, unfortunately. And Donnie Steenkamp, unfortunately, the back marker we've seen in the rear view mirrors of some of the top runners running for the Griffin Sim Racing team in 27th. Keeping it nice and clean though after those pit stops he's made. So he might be a back marker, but he definitely still has a lot of time to try and recover any form of position and finish a little bit higher up. Mustafa Narodian, 28th position for the Triasi Competizione Ferrari. Still doing well on his side as well. And Henk Pieterse, who we saw pitting a couple of laps ago, might have actually completed both stints already. And then Jody Siedeman nicely within the pack of front runners, unfortunately sitting and constantly having to pull over to the side, listening to Jeff tell him about the blue flags. I gotta say, it's gotta start getting annoying. I mean, it got annoying for me when I used to race as well, constantly having to move away for blue flags. But speaking about the blue flag runners, the guys who cause Jeff to light up on your radar, the likes of Johan Bluchnoot, now a 5-second gap to the likes of Harry Bukes behind. So phenomenal stuff from him so far. Harry Bukes sitting in a bit of a no man's land as well, with the likes of Peter Meyer, who's managed to pull up to 3rd position in the Omnius Gaming PokerBet Porsche 992 GT3, having a much better race compared to last night. Last night we saw a couple of spins coming from that Porsche 992. He's managed to keep it a lot cleaner, up into 3rd place now, which is a great look for him. Chris Collison still putting a little bit of pressure. He obviously lost the position to Peter Meyer earlier on from 4th and 5th place. So I think it was 6th and 7th for Chris Collison and Peter Meyer. So they're obviously benefiting from some of the drivers pitting. Henry Platt up into 5th place now with the Team Tryhard Racing McLaren 720S GT3. That is the Evo edition. Unfortunately, the non-Evo edition no longer being raced. And it has an massive accident in the background there. That looks like the likes of Chris. So that looks like Clint Langerfeld just missing out on that accident. Who is that? I think that was the likes of Ian Upton, who has unfortunately gone straight into the wall. Such an unfortunate thing to see. I mean, we can go back 30 seconds now to watch this. Ian Upton looking up the inside of the likes of, I believe that's Langerfeldt. Tries to catch the slipstream. Oh, and unfortunately Langerfeldt breaking for the pit lane. And he just loses all control. Hits both sides of the back straight. You can see Reginald Mitteleni is trying to avoid the incident there. But man, that is so unfortunate from the likes of Ian Upton. Major damage on that Ferrari. I'm not too sure if he's going to be able to nurture that thing back to pit. He might just tow it, and he has indeed towed it. So unfortunate for him. Clint Langerfeldt also in the pit lane now. He probably got a little bit of rear end damage actually from the likes of Ian Upton. So really unfortunate from Ian Upton now having to be towed back to the pits. He's going to have to sit for a while. Let's continue back up to the top. Johan Bluchnoot still sitting comfortably with Gerrit Bukes behind. A little damage on the front of that Porsche. Peter Meyer behind him. The likes of Chris Collison behind Henry Platt. Now putting pressure on Chris Collison for 4th position. Henry Platt actually sitting in 4th for the championship standings for the RACEFACE.PRO GT3 Prime Championship for Season 19. And coming down the back straight, he might start to see some provisions to make a couple of moves. Peter Meyer pulls into the pit lane for his first official pit stop and pitting with no damage. So that is a great thing to see. Pitting with absolutely no damage on that car. It's going to be a nice quick pit stop, especially if he chooses to do a splash and dash. But I'm assuming in these conditions of Zandvoort, most drivers are going to opt to put on a fresh pair of tires, get things nice and going again, and make sure that they are ready to contest for those higher positions. 47 minutes now left now, almost halfway through. We've got another 7 minutes before halfway mark hits. And so far, it's been an absolutely incredible race. Halfway through, things are going well. And so far, let's continue down the line. Rowan van der Walt in the Pandacity Infiltrate, currently sitting in 6th place. I don't think he's done his pit stops just yet. Kept the car nice and clean, no damage anywhere that can be seen. Further down the line, Carrie Duplessis in 7th, and Peter Mayo just comes out of his pit stop. Going to pull out now. I believe he's going to come out. He's got a 1.4 second gap to Bradley Seol. No, Bradley Seol has... I believe Bradley Seol is... No, they're on the same lap. So Peter Meyer loses out heavily. Down into 16th now. Loses out to the likes of Liebenberg, De Jager. And I think he sits just in front of Martin Rodenbach, who is... no, he should also be behind Rodenbach. Yes, he is. Cool. There, everything starts updating. Will he be in front of Kraus? I believe he is just... Yes, so he is in front of Kraus. No, he's not. What am I saying? He's behind Strauss and Kraus. That's a funny rhyme scheme over there. So down to 23rd position. The likes of Johan Viviers behind him now. So that pit stop putting him down very far. But he will start climbing up further once the rest of the grid starts making their pit stops. Reginald Mitteleni now sitting in 5th position. Once people are starting to do more and more pit stops. So we're going to see a lot of jumping up and down throughout the race as people start to do pit stops and people start to drop off. Rowan van der Walt still sitting in 6th, hasn't done a pit stop yet. The nice thing, especially what me and Steven have mentioned in previous races, the BMW M4 GT3, one of the best cars on tire degradation on the grid. Very easy on the tires, very good weight distribution among the car. And so those tires can run a little bit longer than the likes of your other cars, such as the McLarens, the Ferraris, the Porsches, and the Astons. So running a little bit longer than the others. I believe Jean Master's doing the same. Also has not pitted in the Tire Troopers. Possibly why he's actually named his team the Tire Troopers, especially being in the BMW M4, having that better tire degradation rate compared to some of the other drivers. Hansi Mayberg, I believe he has done a pit stop, trying to do a bit of an undercut possibly. And then we've got the likes of Martin Rautenbach, who I don't think has actually pitted yet. He's still sitting very far down. Ingrid Upton, let's go have a bit of an update on him. Still sitting in the pits, so I think that unfortunately this might have been a bit of a loss of motivation from that incident. He's been in the pit lane for quite a while now, and I think his damage time is over. So Ingrid Upton, if you are in stream, or if anyone who knows, not Ingrid, sorry, why do I keep saying Ingrid? Ian Upton, if anyone knows Ian Upton in stream, in the virtual grandstand, with Ian is himself in the prime stream, get back in that car, man. You've got 43 minutes left. It's practically a sprint race, and finish it off. Cross that flag with the rest of the drivers. So many drivers now jumping into the pit lane, as we can see. Multiple drivers making a couple of pit stops there. I believe that was Ronald Childs. No, not Ronald Childs. That was another Aston Martin. I believe that was Griening, yes. Griening, the Logistical Nightmare Racing Aston Martin, pulling into the pits, and I believe that's another Aston Martin in the background there. Also, Logistical Nightmare Racing, Gary van der Haar, possibly a team strategy call to try and put together, keep each other next to each other, and do a bit of slipstreaming here and there, keep each other nicely intact with the rest of the field. Peter Meyer still sitting in 23rd, Johan Verveers in 24th, still trying to follow Peter Meyer, and then with the likes of, I believe that's a back marker, or potentially a front marker who hasn't, a blue flag, sorry, I'm not saying a front marker. Possibly the likes of someone such as Bradley Searle or one of the other Ferraris on track who have not put it yet. Alright. Johan Bluknoot, still 5-second gap to the likes of Gerrit Bukes behind. Johan Bluknoot and Gerrit Bukes still have not done any form of pit stops. As we can still see, there's some heavy damage on the front of that Ferrari. Chris Collison, also no pit stops from him just as yet. Now under pressure from Henry Platt, who makes a dive bomb up the inside. Will he make it stick? He goes out a little bit wider, and he's blocking that inside line quite nicely, not letting Collison come back to attack. And I believe he secured that place nice and tightly. But let's have a look at this. Henry Platt's last lap was a 1:37.4. Chris Collison's last lap was a 1:37.7. So, yeah, Henry Platt was definitely catching up to him. Also, his fastest lap being 2/10 faster than the likes of Chris Collison. So, that overtake was definitely expected. Slowly but surely, he was going to start creeping up on him. But now, Reginald Mitteleni in 5th. Also, no pit stops done, I believe, is now chasing the likes of Chris Collison. Got a bit of a gap, I must say, a 4.1 second gap between the two drivers. And then Reginald Mitteleni, now in no man's land himself, with the likes of Ron van der Walt behind, who is sitting very far behind, also in no man's land, with the likes of Jean Mostert behind, with a 18 second gap. Now down to 14 seconds, 17. It's a bit of a gap depending on the corners. But very, very separate races going on over here. Reginald Mitteleni, Ron van der Walt, both of these drivers sitting very relaxed right now, you know. Reginald obviously trying to chase down Chris Collison in front, but still a major gap. I don't even think if we swap to the helicam, you'd be able to see these two drivers. There you can see Reginald Mitteleni in the background. Still a good 5 seconds from the likes of Chris Collison, so it's going to be a while for him to catch him. And then let's go back to the main set. TV cameras, Ron van der Walt sitting nicely still in 6th, and the likes of Jean Mostert now behind. So both these BMWs still running strong without any pit stops done. Will he make his pit stop this lap? No, he does not. He stays out. We've got a couple more cars pulling into the pit stops there. I saw a Ferrari. We've got currently 3 cars in the pit lane. Jason Landsberg currently in pits. Oh no, he for some reason cannot spectate. I believe he's out. That is why. Chris Collison in the pit lane. That's who we saw. Gerrit Bukes as well, making his pit stop now. And Johan Bluknoot, the race leader, doing his pit stop now. So, will this pit strategy work? We've got a couple of drivers. Henry Platt holding out from his pit stop, staying out in front. The number 9 car sitting comfortably now with a very big gap. He's got the likes of Reginald Mitteleni behind him. Reginald in 2nd place now. Obviously, these drivers still needing to do their pit stops. Ron van der Walt, as you mentioned, staying out. Same with the likes of Jean Mostert, stayed out. Gerrit Bukes now out of the pit. Came out very quickly, actually. Johan Bluknoot in front. So, Johan currently still our provisional pole. All 4 people in front of him needing to hit that pit lane and put on a new fresh set of tires, or just put on, add a little bit of liters of fuel there to actually get this race finished. Just under 40 minutes left. We're past the halfway mark now. So, great stuff to see so far. Corne Strauss having a very big drop-off, unfortunately. Unless he's done both pit stops as a strategy. Well, actually, no, not a big drop-off. He's now rightfully back into place behind Gerrit Bukes. 3-second gap to Gerrit Bukes. And he's definitely still in this race. But he decided to put very early compared to Johan Bluknoot and Gerrit Bukes. Potentially trying to pull the undercut on both of them. We'll have to see if it works out. I don't know if the likes of Corne Strauss has done 2 pit stops. We'll know that next week. We don't know if he's done 2 pit stops. If he has, then he's definitely gotten the jump on the likes of Gerrit Bukes and John Bluknoot, as that pit stop will obviously render completed, and he won't have to do anything more. And all he has to do is keep the car clean. But he might also still have one more pit stop, and in that case, he's equal to the likes of Johan Bloknoot and Gerrit Bukes. Awesome. Let's go back up to our current leaders. Henry Platt still leading up in front, so keeping those tires nicely worn, definitely worn out, but he's managing to keep them at a stable rate. I actually haven't seen him lose the rear or the front side of the car at all so far. So he's managing his tires very well. Same with Reginald Mitteleni in the McLaren 720S Evo. Both of these guys, as I said, Reginald having a little bit of rear end flicking going on. That is due to the degradation and flat spots caused by the track being so hot. 29 degrees now. We're not actually getting cooler. We're getting into the peak of the... very big snap from Reginald Mitteleni. We are getting to the peak now of the day here in the Netherlands. 1:47 p.m. in the afternoon. That sun is directly above the drivers. Cooking that track real nice. We've got 21 degrees of air temp as well. So, yeah, drivers are going to be facing heat. But as we said, that's the likes of Henry Platt pulling into the pit stop. Pulling into the pits to make his first pit stop. So we'll see where he comes out. So, Reginald Mitteleni, now the provisional leader of this grid. Great stuff for him. He's trying to put himself out there, give himself a little bit of confidence, sitting in first place. He'll see that on his HUD, and it'll have him, give him a little bit of a giggle seeing he's in first place. It's always a nice little thing to see. But he still has a couple of pit stops to do, so we got the likes of other drivers behind. John Mostert also still staying out, actually. Richard van Heerden pulling to the pit, actually, as we go on camera. The Green Hulk coming in to change tires and possibly refuel. Ronald Childs still staying out. I believe he's already done one pit stop, though. Johan Bloknoot behind him, chasing now to try and get a position back. This might potentially be for position if Ronald Childs has done a pit stop already. So we will just have to see. Time shall tell. Unfortunately, I cannot see the pit styles at all, which kind of sucks. If we change to the basic... Okay, so if we change to the basic HUD, we can see it briefly. We can see that Johan Bloknoot and Ronald Childs both completed their first pit stops. So that essentially means that the likes of Ronald Childs is provisionally first, but I'm also noticing Hansi Myburg in third place with one pit stop done. So he's currently sitting in third place with the pit stop completed. It could have been a splash and dash and holding out for the main pit stop, but provisionally he is sitting in first. Reginald Mitteleni still 2 pit stops, pulling into the pits now, and Jean Mostert potentially pulling in very shortly. So great things to see so far from some of these drivers. And so far Hansi Myburg is actually our provisional P1 with that original pit stop being done way earlier down the line. And we were actually talking about the undercut from the likes of Hansi Myburg, if it was going to benefit or potentially throw his race down the drain. And so far it's definitely benefited. He's got the likes of Ronald Childs behind and Johan Bloknoot, who are currently fighting for position behind him. And I believe that's a backmarker Ferrari in front of the 2. That looks like the likes of possibly Chris Collison. No, definitely not Chris Collison. There's a couple of black Ferraris here that do not have liveries, unfortunately. That might be the like of Van Heerden down the line. No, definitely not. Alright, it's going to be a bit of a mission to try and find it. But John Mostert, now provisional pole. Reginald Mitteleni out in second place. Has he completed one pit stop already? So Reginald Mitteleni has completed a pit stop, and now he is chasing the likes of Hansi Myburg just in front of him, and that's for position. So Reginald deciding to make a quick pit stop. Definitely no tires changed there. That was a splash and dash because that was an incredibly quick pit stop. Now chasing the likes of Hansi Myburg. Will it benefit him? Because we saw the likes of Reginald Mitteleni already losing the rear of that car multiple times throughout the last couple of laps before he decided to pit. So he's now contesting the BMW with a much lower tire degradation rate. This could either be very good for Reginald Mitteleni, sitting very nicely in the top 3, or it could go very wrong if he loses the rear of this McLaren, which burns their tires a little bit faster. Ronald Childs chasing behind, and he's got the pressure of Johan Bloknoot behind him. And the likes of Gerrit Bukes now also very close behind. No, that's the blue flag Ferrari. So Gerrit Bukes about a second gap to Johan Bloknoot in front. But let's go to the helicam. This is an absolutely amazing little train we're seeing in front. Reginald Mitteleni Oh, and Hunty Myberg pulling in to complete their 2 pit stops. So that is something I was not actually expecting to see. Hunty Myberg and the likes of Reginald Mutuleni trying to complete both pit stops. If we look at the basic HUD, they've both only got 1 stops left. So this is going to be their long pit stops. Reginald obviously feeling those tires were not up to standard. They were feeling very slippery, so he's going to pull in, do his long pit stop. But the likes of Jean Mostert, still sitting out in front with the Tire Troopers BMW M4, has not done any form of pit stop yet. If we check the basic HUD, he is currently sitting with 2 pit stops still needing to be done. So he's enjoying a lavish lifestyle out in front, but he's got the likes of Ronald Childs behind, and then Johan Bluchnote behind him, who will be chasing Mostert for position, and they've both done a pit stop each. So this is potentially dangerous for Mostert. He's going to drop down quite far, as he's got a long line of front runners behind him. Corne Strauss putting pressure on Gerrit Bukes. Peter Meyer back up into 6th now. I believe he's also done his first pit stop. Yes, he has. And great stuff to see from him as well. Doing a lot better compared to last night's sprint series. Henry Platt now also trying to push to get a few more positions back. Chris Collison in 8th place. With the likes of Clint Langeveld in the Sim Racing Cartel BMW behind. And I believe all of these guys have now done their pit stops complete. The only person, Jean Mostert, with 2 pit stops left. And I believe we had someone a little bit further down the line. That's the likes of Jody Sederman. No, Jody Sederman has actually done all of his pit stops. So he's decided to get things done early. So, Jan Mostert, the only person in 1st place with 2 pit stops still left to go, which could potentially be a little bit of a scary thing to see. I'm going to quickly try something here in the main race quickly. I'm going to try and see if we can get a little bit of telemetry going on the screen. I believe it might be something to do with a black box control. I want to just quickly see if we can cycle through these controls. Next dash page. So that's Shift D. Let's quickly check if we can see a difference. That's dash pages. I'm being a complete idiot. Apologies for that, guys. I'm supposed to be looking for the cycle HUD insert. Okay. Let's see. Alright, so now we have overall, and we've got pit stops. Awesome. That's good to see. I don't know if that's going to apply for the broadcasting. That is indeed going to apply for the broadcasting. Alright, so we've cracked the code, guys. We had to just change it to overall. So now we can see the overall grid. Who's done pit stops, who hasn't done pit stops. And we can see the lap time gaps. So that's exactly what I wanted. So we've got that sorted. So, Jean Mostert now pulling in to complete his first pit stop of the session. So very, very late, actually. He's the last runner. 20 minutes left of the pit window. He's the last runner to actually complete his first pit stop. And we're going to quickly sit on board with him. I want to just sit here for a couple of seconds and see if he's going to pull a long pit stop, or if he's going to do a splash and dash and get out of here and try and keep up with the main field. I think this might be a long pit stop. We're going to monitor him on the telemetry side of things. But currently, Ronald Childs is our provisional P1, followed by John Bluchnote. Actually, John Bluchnote getting in front of Ronald Childs now, so he's back into provisional P1, which is a great stuff to see from him, with the likes of Ronald Childs behind him. Gerrit Bukes now in 3rd place, and then the likes of Corne Strauss in 4th. So Ronald Childs has managed to sneak himself up into the top 3. Obviously, like we saw at the start of the race, the top 3 was indeed Johan Bluchnote, Corne Strauss, and Gerrit Bukes. So Ronald Childs being able to slip himself nicely up from the start of the race. I believe he started a little bit further down, still in the top 10, and he's had a phenomenal race so far, sticking nicely with the pack. Same with the likes of Peter Meyer. We saw Peter Meyer starting a little bit further down, up into 5th now, and he's also completed his first pit stop, so great stuff from him so far. Henry Platt following behind Peter Meyer in 6th position. Chris Collison following behind him with a nice 1.2 to 1.9 gap. Clint Langeveld in the Sim Racing Cartel BMW a little bit further behind now. 3.1 second gap from him to Chris Collison in front. And then Carrie Duplessis with a nice gap in front. 8 seconds from him and Clint Langeveld. But he's got the likes of Ron van der Walt filling up the rear view mirrors actually now. here at Zandvoort. In 10th place now, Ron van der Walt is going to definitely try and put a bit of pressure on the likes of Carrie Duplessis and that Ferrari. Again, like we mentioned, that BMW having significantly less tire degradation, so potentially going to start pushing a little bit harder in the final 28 minutes. We've almost seen an entire hour go past so far, and phenomenal racing so far from all the drivers. Peter Meyer up into 4th place now, as Gerrit Bukes pits to complete all of his pit stops. So he's putting the undercut strategy now for the second time. He's now green, as you can see next to his name. No pit stops needed. Coming out of the pit stops, having to surrender to some of those cars coming very fast out of into turn 1 and out of turn 1. Obviously does not want any incidents, but he's chosen not to do any repairs on that Ferrari. So obviously not feeling any form of performance decrease from those couple of spanks happening on the front of the car. Also on the rear, actually, you can see it quite heavily. And I don't know if we can see it on the bonnet drive. No, you can't really, unfortunately. Nor can you see it on the dash. You can see the bonnet is moving a little bit when he drives. But that's not too much. The rear also having a little bit of damage, as we can see. But back on to the TV set cameras now. Let's start going down the grid. So we've got a long line of drivers who have completed all pit stops. Jean Mostert actually going from someone who had 2 pit stops left in the race to being someone with no pit stops left. So he's decided to do both pit stops, do a wham bam. All his pit stops are done for the Tide Troopers BMW, and he is slowly dropping down the grid, but it could benefit him. You never know. He doesn't have any pit stops left. The likes of Hansi Myburg actually done the same, but he's come out in a much nicer position, up into 16th, and he's got the likes of, let's see here, I believe that is Gary van der Haar. We've got the likes of Ron van der Walt, Faiz Tar, Harry Duplessis, Clint Langeveld, Chris Collison, Henry Platt, Corne Strauss, Peter Meyer, everyone from Johan Bluchnow down to Ron van der Walt, and then obviously Faiz Tar and Harry van der Haar still needing to do pit stops in the top 15. So interesting plays coming here. So also we saw it with Reginald Mitteleni, done all of his pit stops now, and he's just going to be keeping his head down, keeping that car clean as possible for the Noob Nation Evo team, trying to bring it home with the last 26 minutes now. 158 track temperature, still 29 degrees, and drivers are managing the tires quite nicely. Not too many accidents seen, and I wanted to see if Ian Upton is out on track, and yes he is. So absolutely incredible performance from Ian Upton. He's decided to get back up, come out of the pit lane with a crap ton of damage, and he's come back out full ready to get a couple of points onto his name. So he had a bit of an incident earlier on in the race, but he's pulling out now, still up into 30th position. So he's not, well, unfortunately on track he's last. There is still the likes of Jaco Nordia in 31st, but he has not done a single lap. But Ian Upton, props to you, my man. Thank you so much for joining back into the race and crossing the line with your fellow racers. It's a beautiful thing to see when drivers show that mutual feeling of passion towards the sport, to come back even after such a motivation loss accident. Neil Kreening, also someone we've been watching throughout the night, down to 25th, but no pit stops needed. Donny Steenkamp now doing his final pit stop for the night, completing it and finishing it off. Who do we still have over here? Bradley Searle, up into 20th position in the Pandacity Esports Ferrari 296, with 1 pit stop still needing to be done. Ruan Liebenberg also from the Pandacity Esports. So I wonder if there's some team orders there to maybe hold out on pit stops. We see it as well with Ron van der Walt in the Pandacity Infiltrate BMW. Still pit stops needing to be done for the likes of the 2. Five-Star also needing it. Is there any other Pandacity members who need to do pit stops? So there's definitely some form of team orders or team strategies going on to try and hold out on those pit stops, get the cars running and doing as many consistent and good pace laps as they can on the current tires and system setup before they complete their final couple of pit stops or their final pit stop. But everyone from 1st up until 7th, so Jan Bluchnoot all the way down to Ron van der Walt, needing to do their final pit stops. And this is what I was speaking about with the undercut, or will you follow the trend of the top runners? So most of the time what we see in these RACEFACE GT3 Championship races is that the top runners, usually from around 1st to 8th or 9th, tend to hold that last pit stop up until the point where the pit window closes. Now, there is unfortunately that possible event that you lose focus for that brief second and you miss that pit window. We saw it in the GT3 Championship race for the Pro Division at Monza last week, where we had two drivers, I believe it was Isham Domingo and Daniel Rowe, unfortunately missing the pit window and suffering 130-second penalties for not completing all their pits. So, pit stops need to be done, definitely. When they need to be done is a completely another story. We've got 13 minutes left of the pit window, so drivers need to make those final couple of pit stops within the next 13 minutes. That's going to be first place to 7th place. The likes of Feistar, Gary van der Haar. We've got, who do we say over here? It's Ruan Liebenberg. Also down over here, Bradley Searle and Ingrid Upton also needing to do one more pit stop. So only a couple of guys left in this race who need to do the rest of their pit stop. Everyone else sitting in the green and just hoping for the rest of the race to carry them through. Henry Platt now sitting in 4th, sitting in the exact place of his championship standing. Jan Blukno definitely will go up into the championship leadership point after this, as unfortunately Martin Rodenbach down in 16th position, so he will definitely lose out on the lead of the RACEFACE Red Star GT3 Pro Championship for season 19. Johan Blukno will take that with loads of points in his pocket from finishing in first place. Ronald Childs, well, we don't know if he's going to finish yet. He's still got roughly 22 minutes left. 35 laps have been completed so far, so he's got to run a little bit longer in that Mustang to try and keep things clean. He's got the likes of Ronald Child behind with a nice 1.5 second gap, so he's starting to develop a good margin between him. Henry Platt with a 1.9 second gap now to Ronald Childs, and then Peter Meyer behind. Quite a margin coming to do his final pit stop. So Peter Meyer, first of the top 7 to pull in and do a pit stop. I see he's got a little bit of damage on the front of that car. He might have unfortunately faced a little bit of an accident. I do see in the highlights there's an accident with car number 11. Unfortunately, I cannot go and review it. But yeah, so he definitely suffered some form of accident. Making it a very quick pit stop though. He's already off of the jacks. No damage being fixed. And a quick splash and dash. He's going out. Obviously not too much damage, as you can see. The car still looks fine. As long as there's no suspension damage, the body doesn't do too much other than cause a little bit of drag. He's got the likes of... who is in that? Yeah, that's the likes of Richard van Heerden, who is also fighting for position now. Peter Meyer going to come all the way down to 10th position. So he's going to round out the top 10 still at least. Anyone else brave enough to branch out now? It's the top 6 who have not done any of their last pit stops. They've got 11 minutes left. So Peter Meyer playing it safe, pulling in early, getting that pit stop done. He's got 2 guys in front of him who will be easy positions because of pit stops. The likes of Gary van der Haar and Feistar, who still need to pit and get a little bit of a slash and dash in, or replace tires if they haven't done that in the first pit stop. And great stuff so far. Also, still Ruan Liebenberg and Bradley Searle. Now, both of the Pandacity Esports drivers holding out those pit stops, trying to capitalize on the gap and the clean air that they've got on track with the current tire setup. And both of them seem to be managing very well. Obviously, a brief that they got before the race was to keep the tires in check. We had some Pandacity drivers last night, and they obviously studied the track a little bit. Let the rest of the team know, listen, high tire degradation. You're going to start slipping quite earlier into the race, so play it safe, but don't drop too much speed. On a cross behind him as well. Currently sitting in 28th, so he is unfortunately the back marker. But on a cross also done a phenomenal race to continue to put on the pressure of some of these blue flag drivers. It's always a good thing to see someone constantly applying pressure. It shows that he is not in the position he is because of his skill level, but unfortunately due to incidents throughout the race. He's still incredibly fast. He's keeping up with the likes of Ruan Liebenberg in front. So great things to see, and I believe that is the likes of Corne Strauss in front. He has also decided to play it safe, such as Peter Meyer, and take a easy pit stop. But the only thing I am noticing is that Corne Strauss is a margin of gap behind Peter Meyer, who are both fighting for that top 10 finish. Corne Strauss in 17th and Peter Meyer up in 10th. Both of them having all their pit stops finished, and both of them are fighting for high positions. So Peter Meyer has either benefited hugely from this, or Corne Strauss has made some form of incident or accident, had a slow pit stop somewhere, and he is quite far down behind Martin Rodenbach, who's also done all of his pit stops. So that place is set in stone. He's got the likes of Martin Rodenbach, Ulrich de Jager, Hansi Mayberg, Reginald Muttaleni, Gerald Pretorius, Richard van Heerden, and Peter Meyer, who are sitting in front of him, who are all green. No one has to pit. So he has to race all of them for position, which might be a bit difficult considering we have 18 minutes left of this race, everybody. We've got 8 minutes left of pit window, and we still got, well, let's see, we've got 6 in the top, 2 in 8th and 9th, and another 2 in 18th and 19th. So we've got 6, 8, 10. 10 drivers who still need to do their pit stops, as I see. No, that is not anyone on the pit. That is the unfortunate ghost of Jason Landsberg. But Firestar coming in to do his final pit stop. So he's going to get it done. 9 drivers will be left to do their pit stops. And so slowly it is getting to the end of the race. Drivers are finishing off all these pit stops and trying to make up those final couple of positions before we close off and say goodbye to Zandvoort. I'm pretty sure everyone here is wanting to say goodbye to Zandvoort. It's a very hard track, very punishing if you make a couple of mistakes. And actually, one thing I can commend these drivers on is track limits. This is a very easy track, in my opinion, to get track limits. Trying to push too hard, going over curbs too hectically, running out wide on the sand traps. In my opinion, quite easy to get that penalty, but no one actually getting that penalty, as we see the likes of Ronald Childs pulling it to do his pit stop. So, the number 2 in the standing currently for this race, Ronald Childs, pulls in to get that pit stop done and potentially undercut Johan Bloknoot. This might be an end of race disaster for Johan Bloknoot if he cannot keep that car up to pace. Ronald Childs not going to pit. Let's see, it's most probably going to be a quick splash and dash. Car is about to go up on the jacks, unless it's already up on the jacks. And down on the jacks. So he's already down. Very quick pit stop. Just added a bit of petrol. And he's out on track again. Chasing down the likes of Johan Bloknoot. Henry Platt also still needing to pit, who's past him. And as we saw there, a couple of sand coming with the likes of the McLaren of Team Tryhard Racing. He's now got a couple of back markers in front of him. That is the Toxic Waste Ferrari of... Oh, I'm trying to remember which Ferrari this was. I believe it is... Is it Harrow Pretorius? Here we go. It's the Gamble. Boom. No, it's not Harrow Pretorius. That is the Griffin Sim Racing driver. Is it off Richard van Heerden? No, it is not. That's Green Hulk. Okay, we got to keep trying here, guys. Ulrich de Acher? No, that's also a Griffin Sim Racing driver. Bradley Searle? No, pulling to the pit though. So that is one of the Pandacity drivers now completing his pit stop. Let's see if Ruan Liebenberg is going to follow him in. Ruan Liebenberg coming around the final corner now. Is he going to pull into the pits? No. So he's staying out. He's not following the same strategy as his teammate Bradley Searle, who's now already out of the pit lane. So great stuff from him. Pit stops are completely done for him now. Now we have only 5 drivers in the top 5. But here we go. Johan Bloknoot pulls into the pits to get the pit stop done. Is there going to be a splash and dash? I'm assuming it is going to be. Cars are going to go up on the jacks and then back down. Let's see if it's going to be a quick one. Chris Collison coming to the pit lane as well. Will Henry Mayer... No, Henry Mayer is staying out. Okay, so he's going to stay out. Johan Bloknoot already back out on track. Where is Gerrit Bukes? Definitely not in the range to catch him. And Johan Bloknoot has kept the position from Gerrit Bukes, who unfortunately got stuck behind a couple of back markers. So, Johan Bloknoot is still the provisional pole for tonight's race. Henry Platt in front of him, still needing to change tires. Well, not change tires, sorry. Complete a pit stop, which is also going to be a splash and dash miss. Probably Chris Collison also benefiting from that quick pit stop. Now has the likes of Peter Meyer behind him, who has also gained a lot of positions here. Chris Collison down into 6th position. Peter Meyer up into 8th with Chris Collison in front. Ronald Childs also in front of him. So, we are nearing the end of the race now. 4-minute pit window left. And let's just see if we've got any drivers near the bottom here. No. No one near the bottom needing to pit. We've only got the likes of Henry Platt, Harry Duplessis, and Ron van der Walt needing to complete pit stops. So they're going to have to pit within the next 2 laps. Otherwise, they're going to miss this pit window, and we're going to have a disaster on our hands again. And we do not want that. That is going to give them a 132nd penalty, and that is going to completely ruin their chance of any form of top 10 finish. So let's hope that that does not happen. Will Ron van der Walt pull into the pit lane? All of his Pandacity teammates have done it. So will he follow them, get it done, and then race to the finish line with 13 minutes left to go? 4 minutes left of the pit window. Will he do it? comes onto the main straight, and he stays out again. No, he decides to pull in late. He comes into the pit lane, not pulling into that striped section, and he decides to pull in, coming into the pit lane, completing that pit stop. We've got the likes of Henry Platt also coming into the pit lane. He's already out. And where will he come out? Johan Bluknoot has already long time passed him. So has the likes of Harry Duplessis, who still needs to pit. Garrett Bukes has passed him. So where is Henry Platt? He's a little bit behind Garrett Bukes. Has Ronald Childs got in front of him? Yes, he has. So the likes of Henry Platt into 5th place now. And we've still got Harry Duplessis needing to complete a pit stop. The only driver needing to complete a pit stop. So he's going to have eyes on him now on the comm box. The virtual grandstand's going to be biting nails with him. He's got 3 minutes left to complete a pit stop. Let's see if he's going to retain that focus, or if he's going to pull an unfortunate maneuver like we saw in Monza and miss pit window. 2 minutes 55 seconds left. Essentially 2 laps from now that he's got to pit. And I don't know. I think he's going to pull in now. I think he's going to pull in now and get it done with. Not play the risky game. He's got the likes of Johan Bluknoot in front of him. I don't think he has the power to fight him. He hasn't been fighting him at all this race. But we will see now as we get onto the final little round corner, the round turn over here of Zandvoort and onto the main straight. Will Harry Duplessis pull in, or will he stay in for one more lap? Stay out for one more lap? I think he's going to pull in here. And he's pulling in, definitely. Alright, so it takes it nicely on the inside of the track. We're not going to have any incidents tonight in terms of pit miss penalties. So Harry Duplessis, the last driver to actually come into the pit lane now. Johan Bluknoot, the current first place sitter, with Garrett Bukes behind, with a nice 4-second gap from Harry Bukes. Ronald Childs behind with about a 2-second gap. And we're going to see the rest of the order come up. So Henry Platt will come up to 4th. Chris Collison will come up to 5th. Peter Meyer will come up to 6th. And then the rest will follow from there. So Harry Duplessis coming out only now out of the pit lane. Coming behind a Griffin Sim Racing Ferrari. That is probably the likes of Cara Pretorius. No, that's not the likes of Cara Pretorius. He's already pulled up in front more. That might be the likes of Ulrich de Jager. Yes, I think that might be Ulrich de Jager. Indeed it is. There's Harry Duplessis behind Ulrich de Jager. I'm trying to click his name and his name is just dropping. So that is him behind Ulrich de Jager over there. So he's going to be in 13th or 12th position. Antti Meiberg also doing very nicely up to the top 10 now for Team Tryout Racing BMW. Nice pit stop strategies pulled by him. He did the undercut. Took it very nicely. I think he started a little bit further down. Reginald Mitteleni also sitting nicely in the top 10 with the likes of a back marker behind him. So he does not have too much pressure. But I believe the position in front is indeed for position. And so is the next position of Peter Meyer. So we're going to be seeing some ending battles here. Pit window is only open for another 30 seconds here. All drivers have thankfully completed. But if any driver were to get any form of damage, they've got 30 seconds left to get in that pit box. And Peter Meyer now got a nice train behind him with Cara Pretorius and Reginald Mitteleni. And Hansi Meiberg might join the party. He's exiting the corner now, the final exit, as the rest of them come onto the straight. He is a good 4 seconds behind. He might have the time to catch. He's got 10 minutes left to catch that train. He's got a couple of drivers behind him, actually. The Ulrich de Jager, with the pressure of the newly pitted Harry Duplessis behind, and Corne Strauss, who has unfortunately seriously lost out this race. He started in 2nd behind Johan Bluknoot, and now he's down in 13th. So he's lost loads of positions, unfortunately. I think there was definitely something to do with an incident that happened, or potentially a very slow pit stop. But unfortunate race from him. Thankfully, still finishing in the top 15. Let's have an update on Ian Upton. Is he still racing? Yes, he is. Props to this man again for continuing to race after his incident. Sitting in 30th with 4 laps gap to Jody Siedemann in front. But the more important thing is that he finishes the race, which is what we love to see. Jody Siedemann, Arno Kraus, Henk Petersen, all of them having some unfortunate races down at the bottom. Same with Donny Steenkamp, Mustafa Narodian, and Neil Greening in 24th. But they're finishing the race, so that's what we're happy about. Johan Bluknoot still sitting very comfortably up in front with a 3-second gap to him from Garrett Bukes. So incredible stuff from him so far. And Ronald Childs very big gap actually, but oh, touching the grass. You can see he's really trying to push to catch Gerrit Bukes before the end of this race ends, with the likes of Henry Platt behind, so he's also pushing because of that. Chris Collison a decent distance behind Henry Platt. That is about 8 seconds gap, 6 seconds to 8 seconds gap, according to the telemetry software. But Peter Meyer has got loads of pressure behind him. He's got Gerrit Pretorius very close and personal to that Porsche. And the likes of Reginald Mittelany also putting pressure on. Has Hansi Myberg been able to catch? Unfortunately not. He is catching a little bit, but I don't think he's going to have the time. But Peter Meyer currently the train for 7th with 2 cars behind. Fortunately, that colorful Ferrari at the back not fighting for position, so he doesn't have to worry about that. But he's also got Richard van der Heerde, the Green Hulk Ferrari, in front of him. Don't know if he's going to be able to catch him with the amount of pressure he's got from drivers behind. He's probably going to want to keep the car clean, try and get it to the end of the line without damage or without causing more incidents. Ulrich de Jager also a little train for 11th with Gary Duplessis and Corne Strauss behind. So lots of little trains coming towards the end of the session. We've got 7.5 minutes left. We do have a yellow flag. That is with car number 22. Let's go have a look. Where is car number 22? I've got car 122. I do not see a car 22. I see a car 31. That's Richard van Heerde, who had an accident. Let's go back 30 seconds. I think it might have just been a little bit of a tap, potentially. And yes. Oh, big contact with someone in front. That is car number 232, which is the likes of... I'm going to get the name for everybody now. 232. Was that 232? I think it was 232. I don't see a 232 on the list, so it might have been someone else. But a little bit of contact there, braking a little bit late and flooring it into the back of the likes of car 232, I believe it was, unless I saw wrong. But great racing from him regardless. Gerrit Pretorius. Oh, Peter Meyer dropping off heavily. Down behind the likes of Richard van Heerde. Reginald Mittelany also suffering a bit of an accident. Let's go see what happened here, because, I mean, okay, so Peter Meyer's already lost the position to Gerrit Pretorius, and now we've got the likes of Reginald Mittelany hunting the backside of Peter Meyer, comes to the outside, and Peter Meyer coming to close up a little bit of bumper tapping from each other. Oh, and they actually, it seems like they had a bit of rubber banding there. Peter Meyer goes straight through Reginald Mittelany and loses out completely. Far behind now, unfortunately, and that is going to really suffocate his race for the last couple of 6 minutes. He's down into 8th place now. He's let all 3 drivers past, while Richard van Heerde was actually leading in front of Peter Meyer. And he's also obviously had that incident with that back marker Ferrari, and he's dropped down significantly low. But here comes Peter Meyer making a move up on the inside of Richard van Heerde. Is it going to stick? Going around the outside, Richard goes defensive, takes it deep. We've got a Ferrari off in front. I believe that's a back marker Ferrari, trying not to rejoin dangerously, as he knows that it's a pretty intense top field. They're trying to fight for position. Peter Meyer fighting for 7th. Lots of damage on the front of that Porsche. Going to try and keep it clean here, but he wants that position back that he's lost out to the likes of Reginald Mittelany, who's doing incredibly well up into 6th place. Also, Gerrit Pretorius up into 5th behind Henry Platt. So we've had some incredible changes of position in these last couple of minutes, but we're going to stick on board here with the likes of Reginald Mittelany, and Peter Meyer's actually got the likes of Hansi Myberg behind him now, who's managed to catch up after all of the incidents. 1.3 second gap to Peter Meyer, and he is in this race. We've got 5 minutes left. Potentially can contest Peter Meyer, who's trying to fight with Richard van Heerde. Oh man, you gotta love the last couple of minute racings. It gets so intense when drivers start to put that final bit of pressure, and drivers are really just putting in those final bits of strands here, pushing those tires to the extreme. That steering wheel is wobbling in their hands as they try and keep that car straight on the track, but also trying to catch up to those final couple of drivers. 4.5 minutes left of this race. Gerrit Pretorius looks to be pulling a little bit of a gap now from Reginald Mittelany. 1.3 second gap, so he's sailing clean. Let's go have a look quickly at our top runner, Johan Berknoot, now sitting comfortably with a 4-second gap from Gerrit Bukes, sitting behind him with Ronald Childs. Quite a decent gap behind, so he's got a bit of a back marker behind him, Gerrit Bukes, with Henry Platt obviously following very closely behind Ronald Childs. So also a fight for that position in 3rd actually. And then obviously the likes of Gerrit Pretorius who has now pulled a bit of a gap from Reginald Mitteleni in front of him, behind him, sorry, and then Richard van Heerden behind Reginald Mitteleni, Peter Meyer following behind, and then Hansi Meyerberg, who we mentioned, has now joined the fight for the battle for, I would say, 7th or 8th. Right now he's fighting for 8th with Peter Meyer. Ulrich de Jager, also not too far back on the main straight, but he's got a fight of his own with Harry Duplessis. Corne Strauss now putting lots of pressure on Harry Duplessis, goes to the outside, and Harry Duplessis goes defensive. There might be a bit of bumper tapping here as they hold it very close to each other on turn 1. Coming around the outside, going around the curb. He's holding onto the back of that Ferrari. He's not going to let things go. 3 minutes left now. Corne Strauss is going to try and make a couple of last-minute moves. 12th place. He wants redemption. He started in 3rd, down to 12th. He needs to see a bit of change here. So, Corne Strauss putting an immense amount of pressure. As you can see, they're clipping on the inside of that curb to try and minimize his track extension. Chasing down Harry Duplessis, who was the last person on grid to actually complete a pit stop. And it's so intense here, guys. I mean, this is 2.5 minutes, just above 2.5 minutes left, and people are racing like their lives depend on it. Meanwhile, it's the championship that depends on it, and a track day sponsored by Red Star Raceway. So that's exactly why people are pushing. They want that track day. They want that experience. Johan Blicknoot wants that experience. Harry Bukes wants that experience. So does Ronald Charles and Henry Platt. Everyone wants this experience, and that's why people are pushing to the last hard content. Gerard Pretorius still sitting in 5th with Reginald Mitteleni, now actually putting pressure on him. Coming into the last 2 minutes now, Reginald Mitteleni has got a 0.4 second gap to the likes of Gerard Pretorius. Peter Meyer and Richard van der Heerden dropping off a little bit. Peter Meyer quite far back now with the likes of Hansi Meyerberg very close to Peter Meyer. 0.5 second gap to the likes of Peter Meyer. This might be a last 2-minute overtake. Peter Meyer goes defensive here actually. Much better run from Hansi. Comes onto the side of Peter Meyer. Peter goes defensive up the inside. Hansi has nowhere to go but run wide. And he's run, unfortunately, very wide. Got the likes of a back marker on the inside. Lost a little bit of time now to Peter Meyer going defensive. And that is the joy of racing. Going defensive, going offensive. Constantly changing back and forth to try and get that maximum finishing position before the end of the race. And phenomenal defending from Peter Meyer. And phenomenal offense from Hansi Meyerberg. Keeping it very clean. Getting very, very close. Elbow to elbow there, but managing to keep each other nicely on track without any form of contact. Guys, this is the type of racing you see at RACEFACE. This is the Pro-Am division, guys, not even the Pro division. These guys race like they're in Pro because they are, in fact, just as equally as good as most of the Pro drivers. I mean, the Pro-Am division is so underrated, but these guys really know what they're doing. They know how to ride hard, they know how to ride fast, and they know how to keep it clean. That's something you only see here at RACEFACE, sponsored by Red Star, the Pro-Am division, and the Pro division being sponsored by PokerBet. So, some incredible sponsors backing these divisions up. And the leader has just been notified by Jeff that he is on the final lap, 44 seconds to go. Gosh, I mean, time flies. We had an 80-minute race a couple of minutes ago, and now we are on 36 seconds left. Johan Blicknoot leading very nicely with a 3.5 second gap to Harry Bukes behind with Ronald Child. Ronald Child's being able to keep it in front of Henry Platt. He's got 1 lap to go to keep that position, and as you can see, he's fighting so hard to keep that position intact. Gerard Pretorius now still with a little bit of impact behind him. Reginald Mitteleni not letting that go. He's holding on up until the last minute. Richard van Heerden currently sitting in a bit of no man's land. Reginald Mitteleni in front of him, but he's fighting hard. Peter Meyer with the likes of Hansi Meyerberg behind, who's dropped off a slight bit. I think if Peter can keep this lap clean, he will be able to keep that position safe to himself. Let's go back with Ronald Charles and Henry Platt, as this is a very, very close position. Here we go. Okay, it looked like Henry Platt. Actually, he is looking up the inside line of Ronald Charles. Now side by side, coming into the final chicane. Henry Platt has got the inside line. He's got the position, but Ronald Charles is going to go defensive, breaking a little bit later. Who is it going to be? This is going to be so tight. The Henry Platt having to go out wide, giving the space to Ronald Charles. Ronald Charles coming up in front. The car there in the sand, trying to avoid. And Henry Platt putting on so much pressure to try and get this going. If Ronald Charles makes a mistake here, this could be a run down to the finish line. Keeping it nice and steady. Which car will be able to drag to the finish line? Johan Blicknoot finishes the race in first place. Harry Bukes finishes in second. Henry Platt coming down to the line. Will he be in front? And unfortunately, he is not. Ronald Charles defending like an absolute champion, keeps it in front of Henry Platt. Caro Pretorius is going to come across in 5th place with Reginald Mitteleni in 6th place. Absolutely incredible finishes from both of those drivers, Richard van der Heerde and Peter Meyer managing to keep it in front of Hunty Myburg. As mentioned, Hunty pulling out, just passing Peter at the end there as people start slowing down. Corne Strauss finishing in 13th and 12th. Chris Collison finishing in 13th. Martin Raudenbach coming across in 14th. Ron van der Walt coming around the banker, the right banker just before the end, but he's actually got the likes of, oh, and that's a crash coming down onto the line. Oh, that is so intense. I don't even know if that was for position. Was that Feistar making the position on Ron van der Walt at the line? So Ron van der Walt slowing down just before the line. I don't know why, but he lost the position to Feistar. That is absolutely incredible. Johan Verveer is coming across the line now, finishing the race off strong with Brady Searle behind him. And that is going to be most of our runners finishing this race. Ian Upton still coming around the final bend here, the final right banker. But what an absolute monument of a race this has been, guys. Absolutely incredible. A crash coming on to the final straight. Man, that is unfortunate. Wow, what an absolute race. Let's look at these top guys. I mean, Johan Blichnoot finishing off, Gerrit Bukes, Ronald Charles, Henry Platt, Gerrit Pretorius, Reginald Mitteleni, Richard van Heerde, Peter Meyer, Hunty Myburg, Ulrich de Jager, Gary Duplessis, Corne Strauss, Chris Collison, Martin Raudenbach, Jan Mostert, Feistar, Ron van der Walt, Harry van der Haar, Clint Langeveld, Johan Verveers, Bradley Searle. Everyone's starting to leave now. That's why I'm seeing names disappear. But absolutely incredible run. We're going to hit a breaker, and we'll be back when we start the interviews for the winners of the Pro-Am, or the podium positions for the Pro-Am race.
Hello.
Alrighty then, and we are back after the break with the interviews for the top 3 runners of the Pro-Am division. What an absolute race it has been, and it has been an absolutely incredible one so far. So we're going to start with our 3rd place finisher, which I believe was indeed Ronald Childs. Ronald Childs, we're going to bring him up, and we're going to have a chat with him. Ronald Childs, absolutely incredible race there for the 3rd round of the Pro-Am division, sponsored by Red Star Raceway. Well done on finishing 3rd. You managed to achieve a podium. How does it feel, man? Feeling great, feeling great. Well, you had an immense battle coming up to the line there with Henry Platt. I mean, the entire virtual grandstand was watching that with a couple of shivers here and there. That was absolutely crazy. Well done on the defense. How does it feel? How did it feel, you know, having to battle on that final couple of 2 minutes?
Fantastic job just keeping space. I tried to keep as much space as I could. So if he managed to get his nose ahead of me coming out of that chicane, I would have let him go. But I think I just managed to get my nose ahead of him. So,
well,
but fantastic battle with him.
You did an incredible job to keep the car stable. Absolutely incredible race. Great strategy with the pit stops. I'm going to give the floor to you to mention anything you want. Obviously, keep it PG. And yeah, go ahead and give it a go.
Yeah, no, the only thing I'd like to say is it's great racing with these guys again. I used to race with RACEFACE a couple of years ago and taken a bit of a break. And these guys have always been fantastic races, hard races, but fair, and some of the best gentlemanly racing I've done, including the overseas stuff, Apex Racing, whatever. South African guys are still, I think, the cleanest racers out there, definitely.
100%. Well, major congratulations again for your third place on the podium, and go ahead and have a nice night of celebrations. You raced hard, you raced well, and it came out to be worth it.
Thanks, buddy. I'm sweating. Yeah, I'm going to have a drink now.
Yeah, a shower and a drink.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thanks, man.
Alrighty then, well, we're going to move on to our second place finisher on the podium for tonight's Pro-Am race. Let's go on to the magnificent Harriet Bukes, who had an absolutely monumental race. We saw multiple changes. Harry, how does it feel to finish in second on the podium for round 3 of the RACEFACE GT3 Championship Season 19 Pro-Am?
Hi, yeah, guys. No, I really enjoyed that. It was a hard race. Going around Zandvoort, it's not easy. Unfortunately, I had a bit of a run in there with one of the back markers. Carried a little bit of damage all the way to the end, but Johan was so fast, and I could see he was managing the gap, so I was quite content staying second.
Well, I mean, you did an absolutely phenomenal job at keeping that car stable. We were watching, the grandstand was watching you throughout the race. You managed to keep things clean. You managed to keep it hard. What was the pit strategy? Did you pull off swapping tires on your first strat, or did you try and hold off the car for the second pit stop?
Yeah, I actually went halfway, pitted a little bit earlier because I ran into traffic. So I wanted to get a little bit of clean air. Didn't time it 100% because I came out back in traffic again. So a little bit unlucky there, but still worked out fine.
Well, you did an absolutely phenomenal job. I'm going to give you the floor to mention anything that you want to. And thanks again to Red Star for giving these drivers the option or the possibility to potentially get a track experience. I'm going to give you the open floor, keep it PG, and you may go for it.
Yeah, I just want to say thanks, RACEFACE. It's awesome. The racing is exceptional. And yeah, basically just thanks to all the sponsors.
100%, man. Well, have a great night further. Go ahead and celebrate a little bit. Second place is no small thing. You kept it nice and clean, you kept it hard, and you kept that car nicely up in the podium spot. So have a great night further, and we'll see you for round 4.
Thank you very much.
Alrighty then, and we're going to officially bring on our final interviewee for the night. The man who managed to keep it in first place for majority of the race. We're going to bring in Johan Bluchnoot. Johan, you managed to keep that car in first for majority of the race. You did an absolutely phenomenal job. What was going through the head? You managed to get the jump on T1, and you managed to keep that car nicely ahead of the rest of the field. How did it feel?
Yeah, I overfueled the car in the beginning. I didn't have a pit strat yet worked out, but the tires kept well. I went deep into the stint, and then I just managed my tires and kept the gap towards P2.
Well, you did an absolutely incredible race. You kept a really good gap from the different P2 drivers that stuck behind you. You obviously dropped off in the middle phase when performing your pit stops, and then you managed to conquer the mountain again. So as you mentioned, you didn't have any form of pit stop strategy. So were you planning your pit stops as you were racing?
Yes, I was calculating some time and what lap times I'm gonna keep doing, and then with the first stop, I just calculated the amount of fuel I'm gonna need with my tires, and then on the last one I just did a splash and dash, just put some extra in.
Well, you did an absolutely incredible job. And then I wanted to mention something. Before this race, you were sitting in second place for the RACEFACE Red Star GT3 Pro-Am Championship for Season 19. You won our first place in the championship standings after tonight's race and the victory at Zandvoort. How are you feeling going forward into round 4?
It's new territory, something new to be in front. I hope I can keep it up. Unlucky for the guys that didn't manage to give me a battle in front, but yeah, the Ford just impressed me tonight.
Well, that's an awesome thing to hear. You managed to keep it nice and clean, no incidents from your side at all, and you did a phenomenal job. So I'm going to give you the floor to have a chat, mention anything that you want to, maybe some expectations going into the next round. Obviously keep it PG and you can go for it.
I just want to thank RACEFACE for this opportunity. It's good to be back on the track, and RaceStar for the sponsors. And just want to thank my team, Omnius Gaming, for giving me opportunity.
Well, that's an awesome thing to hear. Well, I'm going to give you the rest of the night to go and celebrate. Well done on first place, and well done on chipping yourself up the block to first place in the championship standings. Have a great night further, and we'll see you for next week, round 4.
Thanks, man. Same to you.
Alrighty, everybody, and that concludes our interviews for the night. What an absolutely incredible race it has been. I mean, gosh, I don't really know what to say. It's been absolutely incredible. Constant pressure placed on every single driver, and I cannot wait for next week. We're going to see the Sprint Series next week at Paul Ricard, and so will we see the GT3 Championship at Paul Ricard. It's going to be an absolutely phenomenal race. We're going to see certain cars dominate on those straights, and certain cars dominate on those few corners. But that, I believe, is going to be everything from my side, everybody. Once again, an absolutely amazing thank you to Red Star Raceway for providing us with the title sponsorship of the RACEFACE.PRO GT3 Pro Championship Season 19. Going into round 4 next week, they're going to be the same thing. The potential to have a track experience for the winner of the Pro Championship, which is an amazing thing to look forward to. I'm going to hand it over to Steven just now for our finisher. He's going to walk us through the remainders and our sponsors, and it's going to be an absolutely great one. But for the rest of everybody in the virtual grandstand, thank you so much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure hosting you guys and hosting the Pro-Am race for the first time this season. It's going to be back live next week, hopefully with a couple less chips and blocks hitting on the edge. We're going to have a little bit more refined technical difficulties that are not going to be appearing as much, and it's going to be absolutely amazing. So to the virtual grandstand members, make sure you're here next week, Wednesday and Thursday night at 8 p.m. And if you're interested in iRacing, we've also got our iRacing League on Tuesday nights. Although I think it might be over, so it might be starting a little bit later on. But please remember to hit the subscribe and like button if you've enjoyed tonight's stream. Go ahead and watch the pro race if you are wanting to. It's also finishing around about now. And make sure to go follow us on our Facebook, our Twitter, and our Instagram for any future updates for all of our sponsorship things. And also go ahead and follow all of the sponsors. You're going to see all their websites and details in the upcoming video. But once again, thank you to everybody, and have an absolutely amazing night. I'm going to hand it over to Steven to do our finisher.